From an overpowered shadow ghost to a sword that gave you God mode, here we have 15 updates that ruined Fortnite. The removal of pumps had everyone heated, because the first time Fortnite ever removed the pump was in Season 9. At the time, players were so used to using it in the game, it made some players not even want to play anymore. And what made it worse was the gun they replaced the pump with wasn't anywhere near as good as the regular pump shotgun, so players had to get used to the new combat and learn how to use the gun. It also made players have to adapt to a whole new playstyle, since it just didn't do as much damage. You also had big YouTubers and streamers uploading videos in rage since Epic did this. Then they vaulted the pump again in Chapter 2 Season 5, but it wasn't as big of a deal this time. Now, pumps getting vaulted wasn't as annoying as the Marauders update. These were AI players that appeared out of nowhere in Chapter 2 Season 3. They'd spawn from Marauder capsules that would come out of a rift randomly during matches. And this had to be one of the worst and most frustrating parts of Season 3 from a gameplay perspective, because they were good for nothing. They would completely ruin your game, making you waste all of your materials trying to fight them off. What also made it worse was that these things could build and revive other Marauders, so they'd chase you around the whole map throwing stink bombs and shooting at you. Also, I don't know why they had these things in Arena. Well, at least the Marauders didn't affect the whole game, like the nerf of turbo building. This had streamers and tryhards heartbroken. It was also one of the most pointless updates in Fortnite of all time, because with the nerf, they increased the time between build placements from 0.5 to 0.15. Now that may not seem like a big change, but it made a huge difference. I mean, and the reason Epic said they did this was to reduce the advantages low ping players got when they were turtling and wall replacing. But they didn't do anything but make it worse, so at least they later reverted it back to normal. It just seems like Season 10 was one of the worst of all time, because everyone hated the Season 10 update. Several things took place this season that no one liked, and the biggest one was the addition of the Brute. This giant mech was one of the most unwanted vehicles in Fortnite that they just wouldn't remove. And Fortnite said the reason they weren't removing them was because you didn't subscribe to the channel. Yeah, do it now. Epic will only listen if you subscribe to the channel. Well, anyways, these things had 1000 HP, insane movement abilities, rockets, and everything else they just didn't need. And when you ran into one, there was nothing you could have done other than just get eliminated and ready up for a new match. Players also hated how Fortnite removed nearly all of the mobility this season except for the hoverboard, and they made a few patches to the Brutes, but there wasn't a big enough change. Now that is unlike the Infinity Blade. They removed this item from the game in no time, because I'm pretty sure that if they didn't, players would have just stopped playing Fortnite until they did. And the blade would spawn once per game at the same spot, replacing the inventory of whomever picked it up. It also gave them more health and shields, which was pretty annoying. It also allowed them to move way faster than everyone else. Great. And there was literally nothing you could do at all to save yourself if you ran into the player using the Infinity Blade, because for all intents and purposes, they basically had legal hacks. But Fortnite later removed this item after all of the negative feedback and made a tweet saying, "Hey folks, we messed up and rolled out the Infinity Blade overpowered without good counters, especially in the end game. The Infinity Blade has been vaulted and we are reevaluating our approach to mythic items." At least with that, they gave some explanation, unlike the nerf of the superhero skins. These skins were nerfed because some players thought they were a bit pay to win. And it wasn't that big of a problem on PC, since players playing on them had the option to adjust their graphic settings and remove shadows. But on console, it's quite different, since they still don't have the option to change their graphics settings. Sometimes players using the all black and white superhero skins would blend in to the point where you couldn't even see them. I mean, okay, look at this screenshot. Wow. So Epic took that into consideration and disabled the option to make your skin all white or all black. Now, if you do some customizing, you can still get that feel a little bit, unlike the complete removal of mobile. The removal of Fortnite being on mobile honestly did pretty severe damage to the game, because we lost a big percentage of players. Plus, we all love the mobile community. And get this, they removed Fortnite from mobile since Fortnite didn't want to pay Apple and Google 30% of their V-Bucks purchase profits. But this wasn't even the main reason for the removal, because they were paying it first until they found a loophole to get players to pay Epic Games directly. And after they did this, things went wild. But it has been rumored that Fortnite Mobile might have a chance of returning at around October. Now, the bright side for mobile players is that they don't have to worry about skill-based matchmaking anymore, because this update made it feel like every match you were playing was to get into the World Cup. Like, you could barely have any fun. But the reason behind this was to give newer players the chance to get better at the game, and so they'd have a fair chance of getting a win. Then for tryhards, it didn't do too much, except for make everything more stressful, because with skill-based systems like this, you couldn't meme around or troll or have any fun while playing the game anymore. If you wanted to do well at all, just Look at what other players had to say about it. But they later fixed this problem as well. Thank you. And at least the skill-based matchmaking wasn't as bad as the Shadow Ghost in Fortnitemares. We all know it's a traditional thing for Fortnite to do something for the holidays, of course. And in Chapter 2, Season 4, they admittedly took things a little too far by adding Shadow Ghosts. These weren't just AIs or anything, they were real players. Now this was way worse than skill-based matchmaking, let me tell you, because once you got eliminated in a regular match, you'd be turned into a shadow. And once you were, your goal was to eliminate players who were not shadows. So basically, it was Shadow Ghosts versus humans. You could even eliminate your own teammate as one. Just look at this clip of Nick A30 getting ambushed by them.
Are you in here?
Please let me go! Fun. But if we had the mythic weapons from Chapter 2 of Season 2, these ghosty goos probably wouldn't have been a problem. Although this season was one of the best seasons in Chapter 2 so far, we all know the mythic weapons were way too overpowered. This season had 6 mythic weapons. They were TNTina's bow, Meowsicle's rifle, Sky's AR, Midas's drum gun, Brutus's minigun, and Sky's grappler. If you ran into a player using any of these items, you had about a 20% chance of making it out alive. Then some weren't as overpowered as others because the Scar, minigun, drum gun, and grappler were really annoying. Look at how fast this minigun eliminates players.
But on yet.
I will say, I'm glad that only a few players could have the mythics, unlike the lightsabers. These were introduced when Fortnite did a collab with Star Wars and did a Star Wars live event. The lightsabers had a high spawn rate, which made them really easy to find, so you'd see so many players running around the lobby with lightsabers. Then that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The problem with them was, again, they were overpowered. They did so much damage, and players would use them to be toxic. It had gotten to the point where Fortnite was a Star Wars game because you'd barely run into anyone using a real gun. At least Season 7's theme isn't as bad as the Star Wars collab, but UFOs can still be pretty frustrating sometimes. And the thing that makes them annoying is when players spam them into your builds or keep shooting them at you non-stop. Players don't complain about them as much as they do for some items, but still, we all know that we hate when we randomly get abducted by a UFO out of nowhere, especially when you're not even done looting. You could avoid that by landing in other places on the map where the UFOs wouldn't go, although I feel like they drop you off too far from wherever they abduct you. We did not ask to get thrown 500 meters away from our teammate. Thanks, but no. To be fair, the UFOs aren't that bad compared to the Season 7 planes. I don't know anyone who enjoyed these. This was for sure one of the worst updates Fortnite ever released, because most players felt like these planes ruined the fun of the game. They could eliminate you just from tapping you. Then you'd have players who would sit in them all game, ramming them into your builds, breaking everything down, and what makes it worse is that they came with a turret that didn't run out of ammo. But they were pretty cool to trick shot with, since you could hit some sick shots while riding a plane. So at least there was one reason why players might have been okay with planes, unlike with the removal of Siphon. I don't know if there was anyone out there who genuinely asked Fortnite to remove Siphon. That had to be one of the most pointless updates of all time. But Epic said they had to remove it since 90% of players had reduced their engagement in the primary Battle Royale mode. Okay, and this feature allowed a lot of players to win and get higher kill games, since you didn't have to worry about finding health after every elimination, since you'd get 50 shield or health just from getting one. They really should have at least brought Siphon back when they added the Fortnitemares zombies, because these zombies would literally chase you around the entire map, and it turned Fortnite into a Call of Duty Zombies match. Then when fighting the zombies, you'd use half of your ammo and resources fighting them, since they wouldn't leave you alone unless you destroyed the spawner. But before you got to do that, someone would most likely hear you fighting them and come and third party you. Now, if you didn't want to get third partied, you would have needed a main skin that would let players know to avoid you. So click this video to see how to find your main skin in Fortnite.